Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving straight into a revolutionary discovery about the very building blocks of life. For decades, a genetic anomaly so profound that it challenged literally everything we thought we knew about biology was just sitting in the shadows. We're talking about a true scientific mystery here, one that took decades to unravel and completely rewrote the genetic code that makes us who we are. So, picture this for a second. Imagine making a discovery so revolutionary, so far outside the bounds of accepted science that almost nobody believes you. And not because your evidence is flawed or your experiments are sloppy, but simply because your idea seems completely impossible to everyone else. Put yourself in that agonizing position. You've got the evidence right in front of your eyes. You know for a fact that you are right. Yet the entire scientific establishment looks at your work and says, no way, that simply cannot be. Well, that's exactly what happened to the brilliant scientist we're focusing on today. For years, she insisted that genes could actually move around inside our DNA. Meet the mind behind this incredible discovery, Barbara McClintock. Born in Connecticut in 1902, she was driven by this profound early curiosity about how living things actually worked. She eventually channeled all that curiosity right into the study of botany and genetics. Now remember the era we're talking about here. This was a time when very, very few women worked in genetics. Yet, completely against the odds, Barbara became one of the world's absolute leading experts in studying plant chromosomes. But McClintock didn't look to humans or mice for her research. Her groundbreaking work actually focused on corn. You see, corn isn't just food, it's a genetic goldmine. Because its kernels present these really clear, distinct physical markers over generations, it's basically a perfect canvas for observing inheritance in real time. By carefully tracking these changing patterns, generation after generation, scientists can see exactly how genes are passed from parents to their offspring. So, by meticulously examining thousands of these corn plants under the microscope, McClintock noticed an anomaly, a mystery that nobody else had been able to explain. Sometimes, the color patterns on the corn kernels changed in completely unexpected ways. It looked exactly as though certain genes were not staying in one place. At the time, the rigid scientific dogma was that genes stayed fixed in one place forever. Think of them like pearls permanently strung on a necklace, right? Well, McClintock's discovery completely shattered that static model. She found that some pieces of DNA could actually move from one location to another within a chromosome. And when they moved, they didn't just sit there quietly, they could actually switch other genes on or off. This beautifully explained why certain traits, like those kernel colors, appeared to change so unexpectedly. She originally called these moving pieces of DNA controlling elements. Today, modern science knows them formally as transposable elements, or much more famously, jumping genes. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Pieces of your genetic code literally jumping from one location to another within a chromosome. It was this incredibly fluid model of genetics in a world that firmly believed DNA was entirely rigid and static. But here's where the story takes a super frustrating turn. Barbara presented these incredible findings to the world in the late 1940s and early 1950s. And the scientific community's response? Total rejection. A lot of scientists found the idea entirely too difficult to accept, and they dismissed her discovery completely. To be fair, practically speaking, there simply wasn't enough technology available at the time to observe DNA in the microscopic detail needed to actually confirm her complex work. Because they couldn't easily see it for themselves with the tools of the 1950s, much of the scientific community just chose to ignore it. Rather than arguing endlessly, Barbara quietly continued her research. Think about the sheer, grueling ordeal of that. Years and years passed with her work receiving almost zero attention. But she didn't scream, she didn't give up, and she certainly didn't alter her data to fit the popular opinion. She remained supremely confident that the evidence she had seen with her own eyes would eventually speak for itself. And well, speak it did. Decades later, the technology finally caught up to her brilliance. As advances in molecular biology, things like precise DNA sequencing and advanced electron microscopy, exploded in the ensuing years, scientists were suddenly able to study DNA far more closely than ever before. And what they found, looking through their new, highly advanced equipment, was absolutely remarkable. Barbara McClintock had been right all along. Her seemingly impossible theory was 100% correct. Scientists quickly realized these transposable elements aren't just some weird anomaly in corn. They exist in almost every living organism on the planet, including you. Right now, as you are listening to this, You have jumping genes functioning inside your very own human DNA. What was once considered a bizarre genetic anomaly is actually a fundamental mechanism of life itself. Today, we know these moving pieces of DNA are definitely not just genetic background noise. They are active drivers of our evolution and our genetic diversity. They're absolutely essential for gene regulation, turning those genetic switches on and off. And incredibly importantly for medical science, they even play a vital role in certain inherited diseases. So, one of the most fiercely controversial ideas in the history of genetics is now an accepted, unquestionable scientific fact taught in classrooms all around the world.
Which brings us to 1983. This was the year that history finally fully recognized her unparalleled brilliance.
In 1983, Barbara McClintock was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. The historical significance of this cannot be overstated. She became the very first woman to receive the prize completely alone in that category. The award formally recognized her discovery of mobile genetic elements, officially cementing her legacy as one of the greatest and most transformative geneticists of the 20th century. So she was born in 1902, presented her mind-bending findings on mobile genes in the late 1940s, but didn't win the Nobel Prize for it until 1983. That wait of over 30 years serves as a really powerful reminder for all of us that truly groundbreaking ideas, the ones that fundamentally change how we see the world, sometimes take decades to be understood and accepted by the mainstream. Which leaves us with this. If Barbara McClintock hadn't trusted her own evidence, if she had just caved to the pressure of the scientific consensus of her day and abandoned her jumping genes, how much of life's complexity would still be a mystery to us right now? The next time you think about the incredible complexity of your own DNA, remember the scientist who saw what others couldn't and who never, ever gave up.